Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into an exciting tutorial on how to add a glowing radioactive emissive material to your character textures in Unreal Engine 5. This will make your character stand out like never before. If you are passionate about taking your Unreal Engine skills to the next level, you won't want to miss this. But before we jump in, make sure to hit that subscribe button below to stay updated with our latest tutorials and tips. And for those looking to deepen their mastery, head over to woodland.com and subscribe for exclusive coupons on our courses. Keep an eye out for our upcoming release, Modeling with Unreal 5, no Maya or Blender needed. It's a game changer you will surely want to get your hands on. Alright, let's get started and make your characters glow with radiance. What we'll do in a moment is first create a base material with emissive color. So we're going to start from the ground up, very basic materials. Then we're going to add a cycling effect using the sign function. So I'm going to explain how the sign function works in the context of this emissive material. Then I will identify a character's materials. We're going to take the most basic third-person character that we use for the demo of Unreal, and then we will identify what are the multiple materials that this character might use. And then we're going to create an emissive material that will affect some particular texture of some particular section of the materials of this character. And finally, we're going to create parameters for materials instances so you can change the values for different, let's say, stages that a characters might have. To start this project, I am going to launch Epic Games and I will use the version 5.3.2 of Unreal. Inside Unreal, I'm going to take Games, and I will select at this moment third-person character. I don't need to be C++, and the starter content and ray tracing is not needed as well. I'm going to name this project Emissive Material and create. Inside Unreal, we have by default this scenario, this scene. I want to use this one. I don't need anything else. So the first thing is in content, I will create a new folder that we'll call materials. Inside materials, we're going to create our first material. So I open the folder, right click and select material. And in the subfolder as well, I'm going to take material. Following the standards of Unreal, I'm going to call m_emissive. Now let's open the material by double clicking. I will put the materials on the top to have full space. And now we'll start working. When you open a material, you immediately will be prompted with this base node, which is in my case called emissive material. This is where we are going to start adding connecting with other nodes. The first one I want to introduce is going to be one very simple, which is a vector of 3 components. You can keep the 3 key press and click to create a vector of 3 components. You can also go to right-click and say vector and select constant 3 vector. This is the 2 ways of doing this process. I'm going to delete this one. This vector, as you can see, has a black material by default. So I'm going to double-click this material and let's do something a bit more fun. I like purplish colors. So I'm going to take this one and click OK. Now I will connect this node from here to the base color. And as you can see immediately to the left, the material is applied to the sample object. So this is the base, the most basic part you can do for a material. Now I can apply and save. Go to third person. Let's select a very simple material as a cube shape. Put in here. With N, I'm going to put it over the floor. And with F, I will be center over it. If I want to apply the material for this object, I can drag and drop the material over the object. The other option is selecting the object here, going to the details, and in details you have the static mesh and you have the materials. In this case, this object has just one material. So I can click, drag, and drop the material on this section. And here you see the material apply. Let's go back to the material, the original material. The other thing that we want to change is the emissive color, which will be how bright this material is going to look. So for this one, at this moment, I'm just going to create another material, another 3D node. Keep the 3 key and click. And now I am going to connect this node with the emissive color. At this moment, you don't see big difference, but if we decided to change this color, let's say for something like this one, now you will start seeing that the object is starting to emit more color. But even like this is not enough. So let's add more intensity to this. How we're going to do it? Well, we're going to multiply this value from the vector for a constant. So let's say that I want to connect this one with a multiply node like this. And now I'm going to create a constant by keeping the 1 key pressed and click. And this will be connected to the other connector on this node. Now, this node is the one that I will go to the emissive color. If the value is 0, as you can see, I'm multiplying this for this one, is bringing for all the components 0, and it's like in the emissive color, the value is going to be just 0. If we place just 1, then we have the original result, but things are interesting when I add more value, like let's say 10, or even if you go, let's 500, for example. Now you have a very incredibly emissive object. Now, or emissive material, sorry, in this case. This is an object as an example. Now, what I want is to create the effect of something that is pulsing, that is creating an emissive color that change, let's say, between 500 and 100. So it's going to look literally as this object will be radioactive. How we're going to do that? In this case, we're going to the next part, which is using the sine function. Don't worry, we're not going to get into details of trigonometry. But to understand how the sine function works, let's go in Google and try to search for sine function graph. And I think that a very simple example could be something like this. What the sine function is going to do is that it will move periodically between these two values. And as you can imagine, if we apply these to something that is going to look radioactive, what we want is to augment the values of the emissive colors and then lower the values and then repeat the process constantly and periodically. That's why I am using the sine function. Now let's go back to our project. How we're going to use the sine function? Well, for a moment, I'm going to move this base color because in any case, it's not going to be important at this moment to one side. And now instead of using this multiply directly to the emissive color, I'm going to make some changes. First of all, I'm going to disconnect here by keeping the Alt and click. And I'm going to move these 3 nodes to one side. Now let's talk about the sine function. The sine function, I will find it by right-click and select Sine Remapped, which is this one here. Let's select it. And as you can see, the sine function has 2 values. The values that is going to be the top value and the value that is going to be the bottom value. Let's define what these values are going to be. On the other side, as we presented a moment ago, you see that the function is repeating periodically, but is repeating throughout time. So we have to increase the time as this function works, or else we're going to have just one value of the sine function. It will be like staying in just one place, and that's not what we want. What we want is to move time through the function so they can change, so the function can change its values. The first thing we're going to add is a node called time. The time node handles all the timing of the engine of the Unreal and is changing as time passes. And this is the first thing we have to connect to the Sine Remap. And now we have to define what will be the values that this function is going to take for the top and for the bottom. For that, we're going to keep 1 and click and connect this to this value, and again 1 and click and connect to this value. Let's say that for this example, I want this value to be 0.4 and 0.1. As you might know, the values of the sine function change between 1 and -1. So in this case, I don't want to take the -1 value. I want to take a value that will be over 0. If the value is 0, it won't be any kind of emission or emissiveness, this radioactive emissiveness. And when we get to 1, it's going to be the highest value of this emissiveness. That's why I'm selecting 0.4 and as minimum 0.1. But we can play with these values and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, once we have this sine remap, I am going to connect this as well to a multiply node. In fact, I'm going to move the A to the B. I'm using the control and dragging from A to B. And now, instead of connecting as well this node to this multiply, I am going to, keeping the control key and dragging to this multiply, I am combining the values that the sine is presenting here, and I'm multiplying these values by 100. And then this exit will be connected to the enter of this, or to the input of this multiply. And now I'm going to connect this node to the emissive color. And now you can see that we have this kind of material that is pulsating. And I love to see this effect. So let's apply. Go to third person. And now you can see here the object that is pulsating. Let's play it for a second. And there you go. A beautiful pulsating color. Now, this is the first part. Now, what I want is to create this same effect, but in some sections of this character that we have by default provided by Unreal. The first thing we need to know is to identify what is the character that we are using on this demo. In particular, for this default, we have in third person a blueprint where we have this character. I'm going to open this character for a second, this blueprint of this character. When you get into the blueprints and go to the details, you have something called the skeletal mesh and the materials. So you can see, let me visit, in fact, this skeletal mesh. This is the skeletal mesh. I'm going to double click over it. When you open the skeletal mesh, you can see that this particular model has two materials. And you can see what are the different materials because you can isolate them. Let's say that I want to isolate this one. If you isolate this one, it's because these are the materials for that corresponds to the element 0. If I isolate this one, you can see that these are the resting materials that correspond to the element 1. So what you can do is that you can create or you can generate emissive sections of an object. Maybe like Iron Man, for example, for saying a very classic example that has the core heart, the Pluton, I don't know, the radioactive core heart here. You want only this section to be like emissive or the eyes of the armor. In that case, you can define that, okay, these are only the slots for the materials where I want to apply specifically the effect of this radioactive or emissive color effect. So here we have a very clear idea for this character, but it will apply for any other character if you decided to download it from the Epic Games Market or any other place. So let me close this one. I don't need this information at this moment. What I want is to make a change for this emissive material. Let's say that I want to create another, let's go to content, materials, and I'm going to duplicate this one, and I'm going to call emissive or emissive character. So I can create a new material that will apply only for this particular character. Let's go and see what we're going to do here. The first thing is to identify what will be the texture that this character uses. So going back to the blueprint of the character, I'm going to find what is this particular material. Let's say that I'm going to apply this emissiveness into the element 0. So I'm going to click here to identify what is the material. Here it is. Let me double click this material. And here you can find the base texture for this material. I'm going to click over it to find this one, which is, oh, okay, here it is. The T Queen, well, this code that we have here. I want to drag this to the emissive character materials that we create. So I'm going to click, drag, move it here, and now I'm going to drop it here. The first part is to have this section that will represent the texture for that particular section of the character. I'm going to remove this one because I don't need it anymore. And now this is the point where things get a bit more interesting. I am going to connect this texture to the base color. But as you can see here, there is not much change. I can see really the texture. What I can do to watch this is to, at the same time that from this same texture, I'm going to connect with a multiply node here. And this multiply node will be multiplied by this one that we have here. And then this multiplication will be connected to the emissive color. And now you can see the texture of the original character and the emissiveness that we are creating with a particular color. If we wish to change this color, let's say that this armor is more bluish. Or let's go to another extreme. Let's do something like this. Then you have a different colors that is creating this emissive effect for this particular texture. Now let's apply here and save. And now I will go to my character. And instead of selecting this material, I wish to select the new material that we just created. So let me go to my section of the materials, which is content, materials. I'm going to select this one, just clicking over it, go to go to the blueprints of the third person character. And now I'm going to use this click. Saved, compile. In fact, you can go here to viewport and you can already see your character that is titillating, that is pulsating. Let's go to third person, and then let's start playing the game. And now you have this magical character that we just created. Now, what I want to bring you from this is that you can literally do this with any character that you wish to create. Or it could be that in some sections of your game, you want to create this effect because something special is happening to the character. Then you can play with these values of the materials. The last thing I want to do is that you can use this and create your own instance for this material. Let's say that you want to have several versions of this emissiveness depending on the stage or anything that is happening to the character, let's say. So you can create several variables. The first parameter that we can change is the intensity of this pulsating effect. And I can select this one and right click and select convert to parameter. And let's say emissive intensity or something like that. Now we are creating a parameter for it. The other thing that you might change is the color. So I can select this one and say convert to parameter, emission color, and enter. And these are for me two of the most important parameters that I should consider. Other could be in the future if you want to change these values of max and minimum of the emission. That could be, let's say I'm going to change this to convert parameter max emissive value. And here Yeah, and convert parameter to mean emissive value. Perfect. And now I can apply, save, go to third person map, and now I can create a material instance based on this. So let me click over this one, right click, and then create a material instance. And let's call this MI because it's the standard. And I'm calling this one emissive character blue for saying something. Now I'm going to open this one. And let's say I want to change the emission or the color corresponding to this emission, and I want to move it to blue, something like this one. Okay. And save. Go to the third person map. And let's say that I have my third person character. And instead of using this one, I am going to select MI emissive character blue. Now we have our character in blue. I can save and start playing, and now we have the emission in blue. What we learned in this tutorial was first to create a base emissive material using the section, using the components of materials that is presented in Unreal. Then we understand what is design function and how use it for the effect of the emissive radioactive material that we created. Then we identify a character's multiple materials to define what is the section of the material of that particular character that we want to update. And then we create a new character materials with this emissive effect. And that wraps up our tutorial on creating a radioactive emissive material for your characters' textures in Unreal Engine 5. I hope you found these steps helpful, and now you're equipped to bring some glow to your projects. If you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us create more content like this. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest tutorials and tips. Also, remember to visit woolen.com and subscribe for exclusive coupons and discount for our previous and future courses. In particular, for modeling with Unreal Engine 5, no Maya or Blender needed. It is an opportunity you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching and happy creating. Until next time, keep shining bright in the Unreal Engine universe.